This is Gemara Chagigah Daf Yomi. All the learning has been dedicated as a tremendous chosr for Shlema, for Yal Yudis Bas Leah Shulamis, Miriam Gabriela Bas Luma, Yisrael Yitzchak Ben Dina. They should have a complete recovery. The surgery should be at the appropriate time, as well as learning should be a chosr for Hashem Shal Yus Ben Yerpei the Man Vega Chaim Mesar Shalom Sim Neis Azar Bas Kinanti to Basim Bas Chayvzei Yisrael Ben Dil Azar Ben Shalei Shalom Slavi Bas Shaveg Shechan Shmol Matil Den Chan Reiz Ben Chai Bas Vina DNA Ben Shin Ben Dil Zvi Veg the Revka Bas Hashem the Son Sim Chlaster Amram Ben Yaakov Zar Bas Kil Shem Yisachim Ben Yisrael Yehuda Zar Falavrim Ben Chladai Shem Ben Chanav Gal Perah Bas Esther Ben Soy Shar Chali so as well as Choshedu Ben Sochaim the Bar Shemim Bras is a good Chandas of Sanamakul Mordechai Ben Shendel Skil Ben Shendel Shema Ben Chayav Ben Dali Shem Ben Bizav they should all find their appropriate Shidochim Bekarov Amamish. We're holding on the bottom of Daf Yomi, continuing the discussion of Tumah V'Tayra. Most importantly today, we're going to be honing in and focusing on the din of Kavana, the din that you have to have the right mindset when you are being toivel, when you are washing your hands, for what you're being toivel, for what you're washing your hands. And let's dive right in. 5 lines from the bottom of Yud Chesem and Beis. Tanu Rabbanan Hanoitel Yadav, one who washes his hands, Niskavein. If he had kavana that he's washing them for tahira, yodav tahiros, it works. Loinis kavein, yodav temeos. V'chein, and similarly, hamat bil yodav, someone who dips his hands, immerses his hands, niskavein, yodav tahiros, loinis kavein, yodav temeos. Price number 1, very straightforward. You have kavana when washing or immersing your hands, tar. No kavana, tamei. V'tanya, but the problem is we have another price that says bein niskavein, yodav tahiros. We have another price that says it's irrelevant whether you have or have not kavana, your hands are tar. So what's going on? It says the Gemara in the last line of Yechesem Abiz, Amar Nachman like Kasha, Kan lechulin. The second brisa, when the second brisa said without kavana it works, that's talking about chulin turning over to Yitesem and Aleph. Kan lemeiser. When the first brisa taught us you have to have kavana, that is with regard to eating meiser sheni. That's when kavana is a necessity. And of course, once we're at meiser sheni, anything above that, like kachim, like mechatas, etc. Says the Gemara, Menat Himra. And where do we know this din? The chulun loibai kavan. On the very top of Yitesem and Aleph, it's not. We learned in a Mishnah, galish and nitzloish abai. A fascinating case. There's a wave of 40 sa, a tremendous gush of water. 40 sa is the minimum quantity for a mikvah. Minimum quantity for a mikvah, and this gush of water becomes detached from the ocean, meaning it's its own flying entity, and v'nafal. And that gush of water crashes down on a person or on kelim. What is the din? Tahirim. They are tar. Why? Explains the Gemara. Katani Adam Damid Kalim. It sounds like Adam and Kalim, the immersion, the tvila of a person and the utensils are on the same playing field. Ma Kalim, just like utensils, loy mechavni. There's no kavana. The utensil itself has no brain. There is no kavana that fork has as the wave is crashing on it. So af Adam deloy mechavin. So too it would seem to be a raya that a person does not need kavana. So here we see that when one is immersing himself for chulin, no kavana is necessary, as the Gemara just suggested. But asks the Gemara, how do you know that's the case? Omi mai dilma b'yoshivu mitzabeh. How do you know there's no kavana? Maybe someone's sitting there on the side of the beach, and he's sitting there, and he's sitting and he's waiting. When will this big wave detach from the sea and crash down? Askinan, that's the case. And therefore, why did the Brisa list Kalim and Adam? So that's the person. He's sitting and thinking, I can't wait to be crashed with this wave and then become Dar. The Kalim. Now flip the table. That the kelim are like a person. Ma'adam devar kavanav kelim demechavinu. So too the kelim had kavana. Now obviously it doesn't mean that the kelim themselves had kavana, but it means that I have kavana for my kelim. When I'm sitting there on the beach and I have my forks next to me, I'm thinking, I can't wait for the wave to crash on me and on the kelim to make them dar. If you're going to suggest on this last answer, what's the chiddush? If that's the case, it's a regular case of going to the mik. The answer is, you know what the chiddush is? Because I would have thought, you would have thought that maybe being taivel in a wave does not work. Why not? Because maybe there should be a din derabanan that one, if you're allowed to taivel in a wave, maybe you're going to be taivel in a tremendous downpour of water that's flying down the side of a mountain. You have a big gush of rainwater flying down the side of a mountain. So maybe one would think, just like the wave crashes on me, that rainwater crashes off the mountain. The problem is that in that case, the rainwater is not connected necessarily with each other because of the steepness of the mountain. So in that case, it doesn't work. In the case of the wave of water, the whole thing crashed down, it's great. In the case of the mountain, it doesn't work. So you would think maybe you should make a gezerah because one might want to come and be taivel in the water rushing off a mountain. Inami, or another gezerah, nigzar roshin atu kipin. Maybe we should make a gezerah from the head due to the arch. What does that mean? That means in this case, talking about the wave becomes detached. But what about in a case where a wave does not become detached, or actually even better, what if you dive into the wave? You take a utensil and you throw it into the wave. That case would not work. So maybe you should make a gezerah because of one of these two cases. Kamash malon, the loy guys, we don't make a gezerah. So therefore, that's going to be the answer. So do we have a raya? No. We thought the raya that you don't need kavana by tefillah for chulin was from this brace that says that this wave comes crashing on you, and the keli has no kavana, you have no kavana. Says the Gemara, nothing doing, no raya. Why is it no raya? Because maybe you had kavana. You're sitting there waiting, I want this wave to crash on me. But wait, what's the chiddush? The chiddush is that there's no gezerah derabanan. So says the Gemara, how do you know? We just said that the chashash, the concern, potentially would have been that maybe you're going to go and throw your utensil into the arch of the wave. How do you know that does not work? The Tanya learned in the Bryce, matvilin b'rosh, matvilin b'kipin. Why not? Because there's no such thing as a tvila happening in the ear. So if the utensil's on the beach next to me and the wave crashes on it or on me, that's fine. But if I dive in, or more importantly, if the utensil is thrown into the wave, that would not work because it's a tefillah in the ear. But now we're back to square one. We do not have a source that a tefillah for chulin does not need kavana. So says the Gemara about 12 lines down. The first one line is lifi almeha, new source. It's not. We have fruit that fell into a stream of water, upashat mi sheyadav tameos, and one whose hands are tamei stuck his hands in v'noitlin and took out the peiros. So we have fruit that is coming rushing down this stream over here, and then I, with my tamei hand, stick it in and pick up those fruits. Yadav tahayros, your hands become tar. Upeiros einan bechiyutan. And the peiros are not considered that they're now susceptible to be makabel tumah because they got wet. And if the reason that you put your hands into the water was not to get the fruit, but rather to wash off your hands, then yodav tahiros, your hands are tar, va'apeiros einan bechiyutan. So again, let's get this clear. If you stuck your hand in to get the fruit, it doesn't work. Then your hands are tar and the peiros are not mekabel tamah. If you stuck your hands into the water for what reason? To clean your hands, and then you took out the produce, what's halacha? Your hands are tar and the peiros are, yes, susceptible to be mekabel tamah. But what do we see? We see from case number one is that even though you had no kavana, still your hands are going to be tar. We saw in that case, why did you put your hands in? You didn't put them in to wash your hands. You didn't put them in to make your hands tar. You put your hands in just to get the apple that's rushing by. And yet we said that your hands become tar. Clearly indicating that for chulin, it works even without kavanah. Esvei Rabba Rav Nachman, but Rabba's not so happy. What did the Mishnah say that when you go to the make for a chulin and you have in mind for a chulin, it does not work for the next level of meiser? Clear indication the Mishnah is that the only time it works for a chulin is when you're hochzak, is when you're thinking I'm going to the mikvah for a chulin. Clearly indicating if you go to the mikvah for no reason or you don't have any kavanah at all, that it's not going to work at all. Says the Gemara, no, you know what the Mishnah means? Even though you had das for chulin also l'maiser, that's the chiddush. But it's not necessarily telling me the flip side. It's telling me a chiddush one way. It's telling me a chiddush, it doesn't work for the next level. But it doesn't necessarily mean that lack of kavanah will make it not work. Says the Gemara, okay, well, let's go a bit deeper into the Mishnah, which I'm sure everyone is thinking. As Rabbi Rav Nachman a bit further, the Mishnah continued, and the Mishnah said, if you go to the mikvah and you have no kavanah, what's the halacha? Ki'ilu loy taval. Right there, boom, you see ki'ilu loy taval. No kavanah, no tvila. No kavanah doesn't even work for chulin. My lab, ki'ilu loy taval klal. It shows us that the tvila did not work at all. Clearly showing us that even for chulin you need to have kavanah. Says the Gemara, loy. It's not how you read the Mishnah. Ki'ilu loy tava l'maiser, aval tava l'chulin. But it does work for chulin. Who savar? Says the Gemara something very, very interesting. You know, you have to understand how to take one's answer. So this was Rav Nachman's answer. So who savar? So Rabba thought, Rabbi just thought, he's just pushing me off. You think Rav Nachman really believes in what he's saying? He's just pushing me off and saying, it's not a good tefillah for Meiser, but it's good tefillah for chulin. That's not really how we learned the Mishnah. But Nafak Dok Vashkach, but Rabbi went out, and he found that Tanya, indeed, there is a brayso that says, Tavav lo yochzik aser le Meiser, but umutar le chulin. So now we have no kasha from the Mishnah. We thought that the Mishnah perhaps was indicating you need to have kavanah. Says the Gemara, no. Says the Gemara that when the Mishnah said that your tavav lo yochzak, they didn't have kavanah and it doesn't work. What does it mean it doesn't work? It just means it doesn't work for a meiser, but it would indeed work for chulin. Comes along the Gemara. And now let's go into each of the levels. We learned in the Mishnah yesterday that level 5 doesn't work for level 4. Level 4 doesn't work for 3. 3 doesn't work for 2. 2 does not work for 1. But a tefillah for the highest level, of course, will filter down. So Amar Rav Elazar, about 20 lines to the bottom of the Amar. The first one line is Amar Rav Elazar, Aleph Reish Aleph. Taval va'ala. If someone went to the mikvah, and as he's getting up, then he thinks, Machzik atzmoi lekol ma sheyirtzeh. He went into the mikvah. We think right now what's going on is he just went in, and he didn't think, I'm going in for chulin, I'm going in for ma'aser, I'm going in for kachim, I'm going in for chuma. But as he's coming up, and what exactly that means, of course, we're going to nail down. But as he's coming up, machzik atzmai, now he's allowed to have kavanah l'chomar sheyirtza for whatever he wants. Ask the Gemara Meisvei, oidahu ragloi achas b'mayim. Says the brayso, if one of your legs is still inside the mikvah, hochzak l'davar kal, machzik atzma l'davar chomer. If while your leg is in the mikvah and you originally had kavanah for a davar kal, you originally had kavanah for meiser, we'll call it, then you're allowed to change the reason you went to the mikvah, and you're allowed to think, no, I really want this tefillah to work for kachim. But Allah, once you came out of the mikvah, shaveinai machzik, now you can't change your kavanah anymore. So the Gemara thinks, my love, einai machzik klal, that the brayso means you can't change anything at all, whether you want to up the grade of the tefillah, whether you want to input kavanah in the first place. Does not work. That once you come out of the mikvah, you cannot change it. And that's a kasha on Rav Elazar. Because Rav Elazar just said, that even after you get out of the mikvah, you could change your kavanah. But we see clearly in the brayso that the only time you could change your kavanah is while one of your legs is still in the mikvah. Says the Gemara, no, that's not the way to read the brayso. The way to read it is as follows. While one leg is in the mikvah, while one leg is in the mikvah, even if he already had kavanah for a lower level, you could upgrade it to a higher level. Allah, once you came out of the mikvah, then if once you came out of the mikvah, you didn't have kavanah bichlal, you didn't think level 5, chulin, level 4, level 3, chuma, meiser, kachim, etc., then machzik. Then what you're allowed to do, then you're allowed to think, okay, I want it to be for kachim. But if you already at some level of kavanah, kavana, then einay machzik. So the way that we're reading this brisa is that when one leg is in, then you could upgrade your kavana. And of course, the lumdas here exactly how this works. It's not so simple. But when one leg is in, then you could upgrade your kavana. But when both legs are out, then you're only allowed to. But if both legs are out, then if you had no kavana on a level, you could input a level. But you cannot upgrade a level. And that is how we're going to explain that Rav Elazar is not going to be a difference with the Braisa. So Man Tana, says the Gemara, who is this Tana that Odoy Rag La'achas b'mayim? Who is this Tana that says that everything depends on having 1 foot in the water? That's when you could even upgrade your kavana. Amar Rav Pedas Rav Yehudi. Why? It's not mikvah shenimdad v'yish b'arba'am sa mechuvanis. You measure your mik and it has exactly 40 sa, the precise amount, the minimum quantity to be kosher mikvah. But Yardu Shnayim, now 2 people went in B'tavl and they went to the mikvah. Now the problem is, as you come out of the mikvah, some of the mikvah water is on your body, and therefore you no longer have a precise 40 sa in your mikvah. So if 2 people went into the mikvah and they come out the first, and then the second one comes out, the halach is Harishain Tahar Vasheni Tomei. The first one that went into the mikvah, he's tar, there was 40 sa. The second one is Tomei, because he effectively went into the mikvah that was lacking the 40 sa. And that's the Braisa. On this Braisa says Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav Yehuda, and this is going to be the Raya. The Rav Yehuda is the sheet that one leg in the mikvah saves you. If the first person's legs are still in the water, then the second one is even tar. Because Rav Yehuda is obviously learning that being part in the mikvah connects you to the mikvah and allows all the mikvah water to be still considered there, so even the second one will be tahar. Translated into our case, that's going to be the shita that holds that if your legs are still in the water, you can even upgrade your kavana. Why? You went to the mikvah, because we're considering that if you're attached to the water, it's as if you are in the water. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba bar Avua, Machloikes b'maylois dirabanan. Says the Gemara, what were we referring to when we said that you could potentially upgrade your kavanah, etc., is only b'maylois dirabanan, meaning on a deraisa level you're tar. And why are you going to the mikvah for a din dirabanan? Then all the previous halachas apply. But if you're going to the mikvah because midaraisa you're tameh, and you're going to change your chazaka from tuma to taira, then divrei hakol af asheni tameh. Even Rav Yehuda will agree that having your feet in the mikvah are not enough. Having your feet in the mikvah, connecting to the mikvah, now makes it as if all the water is in the mikvah, and therefore the second person's tefillah works is only if the tefillah was for a din derabanan. But if the tefillah is for a din daraisa, even Rav Yehuda will agree that that does not work. V'hainu, and this is the din Rav Pedas of Rav Pedas. Another way of learning that what you just said, the exact opposite. The whole machlekes that we just had is only when you're going in a tefillah for a daraisa level of ma'il derabanan divrei kol avasheni tar. Now it's the opposite. Now the Tanna Kama is going to agree that if it's for din derabanan, it's going to work. Upliga Rav Pedas, and it's arguing on Rav Pedas. So now that is explaining who is the shita of having your feet in the mikvah work. It's a din of Rav Yehuda, whether it's only for a din derabanan and deraisa everyone agrees it doesn't work, or it's for a din deraisa the derabanan everyone agrees it does work. But now says the Gemara, what is this din of Rav Yehuda of having your feet in the mik? Amar Ula, 7 lines on the bottom of the Almud, Boi minei Rav Nachman, Rav Yechlan Rav Yehuda. Rav Yechlan asks, are you allowed to immerse a chatin is a needle, a tzinorios is a spinning fork on the head of the first guy? We have 2 people who went into the mikvah of exactly 40 sa. The first guy gets out, his feet are still in the water, so Rav Yehuda says he's still connected. So now can you come and put something in the head, in the little water of the head of that first guy, and is that going to be considered that it's connected to the larger entity of the mikvah and it's going to work? Does that work? Rav Yechlan asks Rav Yehuda. What is the lumdus? What's the crux of the shaila? Explains the Gemara on the first wide line, 4 lines on the bottom of the Amud. Good achas islay Rav Yehuda. Good asik leslay. Does Rav Yehuda say good achas that we lower everything? So when I'm connected to the water, we view all the water as connected. That's great. But good asik leslay. Rav Yehuda does not allow the waters to go upward. We have this concept in Masechtas Sukkah, right? We have the walls going down or the walls going up. So if for things to go down is easier. That Rav Yehuda allows. But does he also allow it to go up? And therefore, would he allow the water to go up and allow this item on the head of that first guy to be considered as if it went to the mikvah? Or maybe Rav Yehuda takes his chiddush all the way, and even for the walls to go up, the water to go up, it's going to work. Amar Le, Rav Yochanan responds, Tinitua, we have an answer from a Brisa. Sholish gamiyos benachal. We have 3 holes on a slope, 3 holes in the slope. 3 holes. The top hole and the bottom hole are 20 saw, which of course is a quantity not kosher mikvah. Is the middle hole is shalar ba'im saw of 40 saw. So we have a 20 saw hole, a 40 saw hole, and a 20 saw hole. The top and bottom holes seemingly are not kosher mikvahs. The middle one seemingly is yes a kosher mikvah. What happens now? And we have rainwater, a torrent of rainwater that's gushing down the mountain and now connecting the waters from hole A, B to C. A and C were 20 saw, B is 40 saw. But now the rainwater is connecting all the different holes. Rav Yehuda Omer, says Rav Yehuda, Meir Omer, referring to Rav Meir, Matvil Be'el Yoina, you're allowed to go into the mikvah in the top one. Why are you allowed to go into the mikvah in the top one? It's only 20 saw. Because the rainwater connects it to the second one of 40 saw. Obviously, Rav Yehuda is saying that we even say good asik. We allow it to come up. We allow the 20 saw to come up and connect with the 40 saw and thereby have a kosher mikvah. So says Rav Yochanan, we have a raya to the shita of Rav Yehuda. Ask the Gemara, really? Do you believe what you just said? Vatani Rav Yehuda Omer. Rav Yehuda says, turning over to Yotesim Ebeiz, Meir Omer. Rav Yehuda says, you know what Rav Meir used to say? Matel Bel Yoina. That Rav Meir said you could go to the top one. Vani and I, Rav Yehuda Omer, B'tachtoina v'loi Bel Yoina. Only in the bottom one. Why only in the bottom one? Because the bottom one we're going to say good achis. Why? Because again, the 40 saw is in the middle. So for the 40 saw to go into the bottom hole, that's good achis. That's pulling the water down. That Rav Yehuda allows. But to go into the top hole has to jump upward. That's good asik. So Rav Meir was of the opinion it even goes up. But says Rav Yehuda, I hold no, it only goes down. Says Rav Yochanan, Amar Lei, Tanya, of a beautiful raya. Clearly, Rav Yehuda is only of the opinion that we say good achis, it goes down, not good asik, it goes up. And therefore, in the aforementioned shayla, if we have a guy standing in the mikvah, allowed to put something in his head? The answer is no. According to Rav Yehuda, according to Rav Meir, yes. Why? Because in order to say that you have to say good asik, you have to say the water goes up. And now we finish off the Amid Hatayv L'chulin V'chzik L'chulin. That the Mishnah said, when he goes to the mikvah for chulin and he has das for chulin, then he's not allowed to go up to meiser for meiser to kachim for kachim to Chatos, etc. Says that the Gemara, Mani Masnisan, who is the opinion in the Mishnah Rabbanani? The Mishnah is the opinion of the Rabbanan. And this goes back, this goes to a Mishnah in Para. For those learning Mishnah Yomis, I don't know if you're up to Para, but this goes to Mishnah in Para. Rabbanani, Tishani Lei, Ben Chulan LaMaiser. The Rabbanan held that there's a difference between Chulan and Maiser Sheni. Ema Seifa, but what at the end of our Mishnah say, Big Dam Aretz Midras Leprushin. The end of the Mishnah ended off with Dinam of the Begadim, that the clothing of an Ama Aretz is considered Tameh for a Parosh. Big Day Prushin in Midras Leichlei Chuman. And we said the Begadim of a Prushin, the bottom level, those who are Makban on Chulin, are considered if one who eats truma, Asya and the Rameir. That's going with Rameir. Damar chulinu meiser kadadinenu. So says the Gemara, who is the opinion in the Mishnah? Why? Because again, we have to read very carefully. What did the Mishnah say? Big day prushin midras oichlei Truma. 1 second. What happened to Meiser Sheni? We skipped a level. There's Chulin, Meiser Sheni, Truma, Kachin, Mechatas. So when it came to the Begadim, it skipped the level of Meiser Sheni. It went straight from Chulin to Truma. Who is that? That's Rameir that says Chulin and Meiser Gadadinenu. Yet the first part of the Mishnah that threw in Meiser Sheni was the Rabbanan. So what's the Shita of the Mishnah? Answer, Reisha Rabbanan, V'siva Rameir. Says the Mari, you better believe it in Reisha Rabbanan, V'siva Rameir. And that's how we can learn in the Mishnah. Ravacha Barada, Amar, once we're going to the different levels of Tama, he indeed in the Seif, in the case of the Begadim, listed all 5 levels, meaning he inserted the level of Meiser Sheni, and therefore Mukla Kulak Rabbanan. Then the whole Mishnah could go according to the Rabbanan, meaning according to the way that we have our Mishnah in the Seif, in the case of clothing, it skips Meiser Sheni. So now the ratio was Rabbanan, the Seif was Rameir. Rav Achabarad had a different gears on the Mishnah. He had the save of the Mishnah with all 5 levels, and the whole Mishnah could be the Rabbanan. And we're going to stop over here. Tomorrow we'll pick it up from Rav Mari.